Welcome back to the channel, everyone, and thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please do like and subscribe. 2022 was a strong year for me. I let the YouTube channel kind of fizzle out a little bit, but I'm bringing it back to life. It's the off season, it's winter time, and so I've got a bunch of videos coming your way. I'm also really excited to announce that I'm gonna be doing weekly giveaways on my channel throughout this off season. They're gonna be good. Each giveaway is gonna include at least one disc and at least one apparel item. And of course, I don't want any of that apparel to go to waste. And so I'm planning on communicating with each winner to make sure they get whatever's gonna work for them in their size or someone who they wanna give it to or whatever. So you're not gonna wanna miss out. There's gonna be some really good stuff coming your way. Again, thank you all for joining. Let's get into the video. So for today's video, I'm gonna walk you guys through my season, one event at a time. 2022 was a really strong year for me, and so I thought it would be interesting to kind of compare how I felt about my performance at each event versus the actual statistical facts, the ratings. I am very much a perfectionist. I have sort of an analytical and methodical brain and way of operating, and so I've developed this reputation of never being happy with a single throw or a tournament or a round or anything. And so I thought it'd be interesting to actually put it out all on paper to be able to visualize it and break it down. So hopefully you guys enjoy watching. Let's check it out. So here it is, my 2022 season. I know the writing is a little bit small, so hopefully you guys are able to see everything okay. Everything you see in black is fact. It's the numbers, it's the ratings. Everything you see in red is just how I felt, just my perspective as a touring pro. Now, the way I've marked this out is I have the average, the worst round I shot, and the best round I shot from each weekend. The red squares mark just how I felt about the weekend overall. So, Crush on the Concho was an awesome start to the year. I had just worked on changing my putting form all throughout the winter. So I was interested to see how things would go with the new putt right off the bat. I think I shot a 1050 something. Now round 2 was really special. It was very windy and ended up shooting 15 down and shooting my highest ever rated round at a 1098. So that was fantastic. Ended up taking a big lead into the final round and I was able to win. Felt really good. So I thought the ratings and my personal perspective lined up the same on that weekend. The next week was Waco, my first pro tour event of the year, and I felt really good. I remember I didn't shoot any like incredible rounds, but I just stayed very solid the whole way through. The ratings actually show that it was like just barely entering the solid range as I have it marked out here. Next weekend was Belton, and Belton was a little bit of a weird event for me. I started well, shot one off of the hot round, and was battling Chris Dickerson in round 2, and I just couldn't quite get the putts to go in. Again, it was really windy. That one was on camera, so you can go check that one out. But this is one of my worst rounds of the year. So, played on lead card, shot a bad round. It was a lot of mixed feelings. Texas States felt similar to Waco. I stayed strong the whole way through. That felt great to me. The ratings showed that it was somewhere between solid and great, so that was just a good weekend for me. Now, the Music City Open. Talk about a weird event for me. First round, I played pretty well. So the second round, I was on lead card, and halfway through, I think I was leading the tournament, but if you guys remember watching the coverage, there were some funky rules calls and some kind of weird communication and whatever. I got myself into some weird situations. That was kind of tough to deal with. It was just a lot of like weird feelings and pressure. I really did play well in the second round. I got a ton of birdies, but didn't quite leave with a great score that day. Came back the next day, final round, and I still was just in a weird headspace. And so that just felt like borderline really rough. It wasn't actually that bad. It was just a little below average according to the ratings. But that felt bad. That was like just a weird weekend. Moving on to the Vintage Open. I love this tournament. I've won it twice now. It's in Arkansas. I just love Arkansas for some reason. It feels like a second home to me. In the first 2 rounds, I shot 1050. And so going into the final round, I had a big old lead, which is awesome. but the pressure felt weird and I just didn't play well the final round. Fortunately, I had a big enough lead. I was still able to win. And so that felt solid. You know, anytime you come away with a win, it feels a little bit better, you know, automatically, regardless of how you play. If you're able to win, you did good enough. So that felt solid. Again, averaging 1033. Next up was Champions Cup, and Champions Cup was a little bit of a mixed bag. Had a fairly weak round in there and like 2 medium ones, and then 1 really hot round towards the end. I shot 12 under, which is amazing. Kind of got overshadowed because Paul Macbeth shot 14 under. What are you gonna do? Next up was Jonesboro, and this was a pretty consistent weekend for me, just a little bit above average. Next, we head over to the Dynamic Discs Open in Emporia. The ratings show that was a rough one for me, and my emotions felt even slightly worse. It was super windy, and yeah, that was just like kind of a brutal weekend. Moving on to the 303 Open. This is in my home state. I remember the first round, me and Aaron Gossage were kind of like battling it out, and we shot great rounds. I think like 13 and 14 under or something like that. So it was fun kind of like battling it out with him. I definitely had a solid wide open door to win this event, and in the final round just didn't quite pull it off. So that one felt above average, not amazing. The ratings and my feelings agree. And then we head to the West Coast for Masters Cup. This was definitely easily my worst event of the year. I averaged 1010, which just falls in the really rough category for me. Felt a little bit even worse, just like very rough. I barely cashed. I think I got last cash. Shot a 980 in round 2. I love De La Viega so much. It's such an awesome course and so fun, but for some reason I don't have a great history in terms of my performance there. So next up was OTB, the OTB Open. I had a really steady, consistent performance. The spread is really small here. The statistics show it was a little bit closer to average than what I felt, but not too shabby. Next up was the SeaTac Takeoff in Washington. This was an A tier. Really glad I played this event, enjoyed it. First 2 rounds I played pretty well, and then in the final round I wasn't playing great. I was in the lead, but then Chandler Kramer just got on a heater. He just started playing incredible, hitting some of the most clutch, epic putts I've ever seen. It was, I think, hole 16, and he hit the most epic putt I've ever seen in person. It was just this nose up, weaving through the trees, dead center from like 70 feet, awkward stance in the rough. It was so crazy. And then hole 17, I think he threw out of bounds. I ended up going into the last hole with 1 stroke, and we both birdied. That one felt a little bit better than the ratings actually showed, which I think makes sense because I won. So again, it always feels a little bit better just when you're able to pull off the win. Now on to the Portland Open. The Portland Open was interesting because I played 2 really good rounds in the first and second, and then 2 pretty bad rounds in the third and fourth. So overall, it kind of felt average, which is pretty much what the ratings show as well. Now, the Beaver State Fling, Milo MacGyver, some of the best courses in the world. Really enjoyed that event. Came with some ups and downs, some rain, but in the final round, I got things going, kicked into gear, and started making ground on the leaders. I was not playing on lead card, but if you guys remember, I got 3 birdies in a row and then hit the ace on, I think, hole 13. My first hole-in-one on the Pro Tour, super cool. So glad the cameras were there to capture that moment. And then the icing on the cake was actually the birdie on hole 18. That hole is really tough to get a birdie on, and I parked it. I put it to, I don't know, 20 feet at most. So that was a really cool event. Ended up pulling out second, felt solid. Rating said it was solid. From there, I took a week off. I played the Match Play Championships in my home state of Colorado, which I was able to win. Some could argue that that's the biggest win of my career. It was $10,000 to first. It was technically a Pro Tour event, but it was also in kind of that different match play, non-sanctioned format. In any case, that was a really cool weekend for me. From there, I headed to Kentucky for the Charlie Vettner Open. This was an A tier, and in the first round, I shot my worst round of the entire season at a 978 rated round. In round 2, I bounced right back and shot exactly 100 points higher at a 1078. So that was crazy. huge bounce back. It was cool to get some redemption. It was on the exact same course, so that was kind of funny. In the third round, I played okay. I think I ended up finishing in third. Overall, pretty slow weekend for me. I thought what I felt and what the ratings showed kind of matched up pretty nice on that weekend as well. Next, I played the LWS Open at Idlewild, also in Kentucky, and this one gets the award for the most consistent weekend on tour. I shot a 10-17, a 10-18, and a 10-19. Never really got anything going. It was just a pretty rough weekend all the way through, so the ratings and my feelings kind of matched up there as well. Then I headed to Ohio for the Brent Hambrick Memorial. I really like playing this event because it has a really rich history. It's been going on for decades, I think, and I've played it a few times. I feel like it sets up really well for my game, but I just have never played well there. Can't seem to see it all come together at the Brent Hambrick. So not a great weekend, felt really rough. It wasn't that bad, it was just kind of slow to rough. Next up was Deglow, and that was also one of the weird weekends for me. I believe in the first round I played pretty well. In the second round, that day was really funky. In the middle of my round, I threw a shot, kind of landed right in the midst of lots of people, kind of right near a crowd of spectators. And we kind of climbed down the hill. We're looking for my disc, and it's nowhere to be found. So that was kind of an interesting situation there. I had to come all the way back the hill, take the penalty stroke, got a double bogey, and then at the end of the round, the scores were counted wrong, and I didn't notice until I had already left the course and was thinking about it. And so I had to call in, get that corrected, and unfortunately, that penalized me an extra 2 strokes. So that was kind of just a rough day for me. Should have looked closer at the scores. The weird part was I really did feel like I was playing quite well, but the numbers just didn't quite reflect that. So that's kind of a big contrast here. I felt like that was an above average weekend for me, but the ratings showed that it was like really bad. In any case, heading over to Missouri for the Mid-America Open. This is another amazing course. Harmony Bends is just really special. It floods a lot, but thankfully this year it was dry enough to play, so that was awesome. Didn't perform well. That was a pretty rough weekend. Never really got anything going. It felt a little worse than it actually was. Next up was Ledgestone. I felt like this was a little bit of an above average weekend for me. The ratings showed it was slightly below average. Overall, pretty close to the same. The Des Moines Challenge, that was a unique weekend as well. There was a rain delay overnight, and so everybody played that tournament kind of different. We had to come the next day. Some people played 2 full rounds in the second day. Other people played a round and a half, and so on. So I ended up being one of the people who played pretty much a round and a half on that second day. Didn't feel like I was playing all that well, but then found myself on lead card, which was great. Tried to battle for the lead, but then Robert Burridge got going, put himself way out in the lead. Simon ended up kind of catching up right towards the end. They went into that epic playoff. Super cool. Congratulations, Simon, on taking that one down. And I ended up getting third right behind them. Strangely, I didn't feel like I played well. It was a slightly above average weekend for me. So interesting to take away third on that weekend. From there, I played the Kansas City Wide Open. This was an A tier, and the first round was pretty rough for me. The ratings show that it wasn't that bad. Second and third round were a little bit better. That final day, Andrew Marweed was in the lead, and he just shut everybody out. He was hitting huge circle 2 putts, hitting clean lines. He played amazing, ended up winning. I got second. Felt okay. I think that's mostly because round 1 was so bad and the other 2 were solid. So ratings showed it was better than how I felt. Worlds. Now Worlds, 5-round tournament, and so you've got a lot of holes that you're playing there. Round like 2 or 3, I got really hot and started just hitting huge putts, getting a ton of birdies, stacking them up. I was very near the lead. I had a chance to get onto lead card. And then there was kind of this weird incident that I won't go into. Overall, I felt solid about it, which the numbers showed as well. I got 7th place at the World Championship, so that's definitely something that I can be proud of. Pretty cool to get top 10 at Worlds, not easy to do. Moving on to the next weekend in Pittsburgh, where I played the Butler County Disc Golf Classic. Talk about an amazing piece of property. This place has everything. It's got tight woods, it's got severe ups and down hills. It is such a cool place, and the local disc golf community has put so much work into this incredible course. First time I saw it, it gave a mostly good impression. A lot of trees, not the most fair course, but it was really challenging. I came home to my wife saying it might be tough to shoot under par this weekend. This is a hard course. First 2 rounds, I think I shot a 5 under and a 7 under versus Chandler Kramer, who shot back-to-back 8 under. So I felt like I was playing pretty well, but I was 4 back of the lead coming into the final round. Chandler Kramer, he's got the best forehand that this game has ever seen. He's got a really solid putting stroke. Circle 1, circle 2, he's just solid player overall. And so of course I was gonna try and chase him down. Ended up starting hot. Chandler and I stayed pretty close throughout the entire round. A lot of clutch little putts and crucial little moments. Fast forward to, I think, hole 12 and 13. I was getting lucky on those 2 drives. Chandler got a little bit unlucky. I played hole 15, amazing. And then long story short, I ended up having, I don't know, maybe a 4 or 5 stroke lead. With just a few holes to play. Ended up shooting 8 under on the back 9, which is the harder 9. Coming down that last fairway, I was thinking to myself, I might be looking at shooting double digits on this course, which is insane. I made that last putt and somebody said 14 under. I could not believe it. 14 under? How is that possible on this course? Totally crazy. Felt like that was one of the best rounds of all time, maybe. It's just so rare to get lucky and be playing that well all on the same day. So that was just a really special combination. I feel like that rating should have been just clear off the page. 1120, I don't know, somewhere around there. Ended up being a 1077, which is kind of funny. That tournament felt incredible, really great. Obviously came away with the win. And that was my first technically like standard stroke play win on the Pro Tour. So that was a huge weekend for me. Super cool, and a crazy final round. Again, super thankful that the cameras were there to capture all of that. That weekend just felt fantastic. The ratings showed that it was just solid. So that's kind of funny. So then after this nice upward trend that you see here, we head to GMC in Vermont. And again, this place is amazing. I am a huge fan of Fox Run. I'm not a big fan of Brewster Ridge just because it's very repetitive and I don't feel like it's hard enough for touring pro level players. But Vermont is beautiful. Always enjoy playing that event. Obviously, it's an amazing facility. Felt pretty rough. The ratings were pretty rough. So that makes sense. Next, headed over to the MVP Open. Maple Hill is, in my opinion, the best course that I know of in the world. Had a pretty good performance there, a few ups and downs, but the ratings and my feelings matched up there. USDGC, always love playing USDGC. The vibe, the prestige, it's just epic. First 2 rounds I played really bad, and then third round I shot a 1090. That was my second highest rated round of the year. Shot 12 under. It was crazy. I was struggling so much with the putter in the first 2 rounds, and then in the third round, I putted 100% circle 1 and circle 2. Ratings showed that it was a solid weekend. It felt a little bit better than that, I think, just because of the slow start and then how I was able to bounce back. That always feels good. Then I headed to Virginia for the Lake Marshall Open. Talk about an incredible piece of property for disc golf. This is probably the best disc golf property I've ever played on. It is beautiful. It is really well put together in terms of the course design. If you guys haven't ever played Lake Marshall, find a way to get there. I can't recommend it highly enough. The one downside, in my opinion, is that it's too easy for the top level players. In my practice rounds, I was shooting 12 to 15 under par. And so just a little bit too easy for tour players, but it's still a really nicely put together layout. Just maybe for like a high level advanced player or a low level kind of professional player as opposed to a touring player. I did not play well. Felt like I was missing all my putts, like missing lines. It was just the full package. That was a bad one for me. Ratings showed that it was just rough. So felt a little worse than it actually was according to the numbers. Next up was the Myrtle Beach Open. I really enjoy playing this event. It's a cool environment to play in, and it's an Innova sponsored event, and so I get a lot of home team love. The course that we play in the first and third round is very fair. It's a little bit easy for like a top pro player, but it's nice and fair. The second round we play a different course, which is not a fair course. And so the first and third round, I played pretty solid and I got a solid score. In the second round, I played pretty rough and the score was even more rough. So the second round was one of my worst rated rounds of the year. The other two were solid. I felt like I played a little bit above average. That was a pretty solid performance for me. However, the ratings showed that it was a pretty rough weekend. So kind of funny to look at these two weekends in relation to each other. Lake Marshall felt awful for me and Myrtle Beach felt pretty good, and they ended up about the same ratings wise. To cap off my year, I headed to the Northwest Arkansas Open. It's an A tier, and again, really enjoy playing in Arkansas, love the community there, and I played this event last year and really enjoyed it. So I was happy to be back. Played pretty solid in the first and second round, and so coming into the final round, I had a one-stroke lead over a good friend of mine, Andrew Presnell. If you guys know anything about Andrew Presnell, you know he plays a lot of B tiers, a lot of local events, but he's really good. He's touring pro level. The point I'm making is that he battles for the win week after week after week. If there's somebody who knows how to battle, it's Andrew Presnell. And so he came into that final round one stroke back of me. First hole, I gained a stroke. Second hole, he gained it back. Third hole, I gained it back again. Fourth hole, we both bogeyed. Fast forward to, I think, hole 11, and I had a 3-stroke lead. Then skip over to hole 13, we were tied up with 5 to play. We both ended up getting some clutch birdies down the stretch, and hole 18, I had a 1-stroke lead. We both threw great drives. He almost threw it in for eagle. I made a good upshot and tapped in for the win. Felt really good to finish off with a win, of course. And so felt slightly above average for me. Like I said, it just felt good to leave on a good note, finish with a win. The ratings showed about the same. It was a pretty average weekend as far as ratings go. So there it is. There's my 2022 season. Up here's a little comparison. I actually felt better than I should have according to the ratings. 13 weekends out of the 31. I felt worse than I probably should have 10 times, and then they matched up about 8 times. That wraps it up. I feel pretty good about that. Sometimes I feel like a pessimist. I know a lot of the time I sound like a pessimist, but I mean, hey, I'm not too bad. I'm not as bad as I expected. Again, I really appreciate each and every one of you watching. Hope you enjoyed kind of my breakdown and some of my thoughts on my season. And now it's time to talk about the giveaway. As a touring professional disc golfer, a big part of my job is promoting my social media presence, and I need your help to do it. So, in order to enter this week's giveaway, you have to click on one of the other videos on my YouTube channel, not the one you're watching right now, but go to my channel, click on a different video, get in the comments, and leave a comment that includes the word synthesize or synthesizer. What this will do is it'll get a little bit more traffic into my YouTube channel coming into this winter. It'll kind of give me a little bit of a kickstart and kind of help springboard my YouTube channel into this off season. So thank you all for being a part of that. I'm excited to just see what you guys come up with. Get creative, have some fun with it. As long as you post a valid comment, you'll be entered to win. At the end of the week, I'll pull a name out of that hat, and then in my next video, I'll announce who won. I'll try to get a hold of you, and then we'll sort things out from there. Until next week, I'm Joel Freeman, you're watching Wholehearted, and we will see you next time.